I was at work one night, and I had just received a beating from my husband earlier that evening. And a police officer that I knew noticed that I wasn't quite right. And he asked me, was I okay? He noticed by my body language, I guess, that I wasn't. And he asked me, was your husband abusing you? And I didn't quite answer, but he said, you have to do something about it, because if you don't, he's going to continue abusing you. And he said, if, I'll be there to help you when you decide. And that was great. It was just such a relief to know that somebody was there. If I decided to leave, that was my first, it was my first kind of, opening to a new world. I can actually leave. Somebody will believe me that this is happening. And that was the beginning of the beginning.
My wife and I have, I've noticed it's been, when we have a dispute about something, or I tend to get really loud and probably could be violent. I love my wife. I would never want to hurt her. I don't want to get to that point to where I'm in denial that I have a problem with that. And, just this last argument really, to be honest with you, scared me, because if I didn't walk out of the house, there definitely would have been a problem, and I know it.
Right.
But I was strong enough to walk away and say, you know what? That's my wife. I love her. No way.
Right. Well, I'm so glad you called today, and if we can do...
500 people call the National Domestic Violence Hotline every day.
Did you call any of the AMEND groups?
National Domestic Violence Hotline, how may I help you?
The calls come from women, men, and children who are being controlled and abused by someone they love.
Is this for you, or are you looking for somebody else? Okay.
The abuse can often go on for years before the victim calls for help.
The agency in Port Huron is called Domestic Assault.
Any other town I can help you with? Because if I could find that, I could find what's close to you, but this is not even on the map.
And Louisville, let me
It's
just
called
go ahead and
the
check
silent
and see.
crime. Those who live with it don't want to talk about it. The rest of us don't want to know about it.
Okay. So, you okay?
Los certificados de nacimiento de los niños, papeles de la aseguranza, todo ese tipo de información importante que se necesite.
Can you tell me if you're in a safe place right now?
The National Domestic Violence Hotline was funded by Congress in 1996.
Something just happened?
Public awareness of domestic violence is that recent. But it is still true that in the United States, the most dangerous place women and children can be is their own home. In this program, we'll see some of the innovative ways that people are finding to help the victims of domestic violence.
If you just look at it in your own community and peg out where the zip codes are, you can see that violence absolutely knows no boundaries. It doesn't base itself on race, class, ethnicity, economic status, any of those issues. It crosses all of those. As often, battered women do not know about the resources in their community. They may even be in a rural community where even if they knew where to call, they don't want to call there because they know everyone there.
He make us move from different places. Now he find my children and the school, and he's chasing my children.
Oh, wow.
He tried to kidnap me and put me in a van.
Oh, no.
He chased me with a gun.
I don't know. When I tell him I'll go get a job, I'll do this, I'll do that if it makes you feel better. I got the job, and he turned around because I wasn't at home exactly after my shift was over. Called my boss, yelled at him, and quit my job for me, and then wouldn't even let me call my boss and tell him that I was sorry and that I couldn't come in.
Ok, porque como le digo, señora, va a tener que establecer un plan. En caso de que no le puedan ayudar, usted va a tener que establecer un plan.
We have to stop thinking that if she will leave, then things will be better and it'll end. What we know is that women are at 75% increased risk if they leave their partner of dying or being killed or harmed worse.
Do you feel like you'll be safe there?
Well, I don't know, but I'm going to see if I can work and change my Social Security number, because apparently that's the way that he find my children in the schools.
Oh, okay. Okay, and do you know how to do that, or you don't?
No, I don't know, but I'm gonna find a way.
Okay, well,
find out.
I can tell you how to do that.
She was just attacked about an hour ago or so, and she called crying and said, you know, I just don't know why I'm calling. I don't know why I'm calling. I don't know what to do. And basically wasn't into the point where she's ready to leave. She's so fearful of him.
So she's trying to relocate to another state, but the problem she came across was that once she leaves her state and goes to another state, especially Florida, she's not considered in danger anymore. So the domestic violence shelters will not accommodate her.
We need to see that this is not a woman's issue. It's much more than that. We may be the receiver of the violence, but it affects all of us. And so I think that that's one of the things that is a huge obstacle for us is philosophically we need to all get on the same page and believe that we all have a part in ending violence.
I think if you had told me as a teenager you're going to end up being a battered woman, I would have said you're out of your mind. I spoke up, I was assertive, I took tremendous responsibility at home, I was determined not to fall victim to anybody. The problem with abusive relationships is that the violence doesn't happen on your first date. Batterers are so skilled at gradually working their way up, and my abuser was someone who seemed to be very together, a loving, caring person, and he was never violent until 3 years into the relationship. And so it comes as a shock, but you realize that controlling behavior is there first. One batterer that I worked with, he was a lawyer in our community, and we were prosecuting him for horrific assault on his wife, and he had put together this 4-page list of all the things his wife had to do in order to not get beaten. Initially, it's generally manipulation. So he would start out saying, well, if you really love me, you won't go shopping with your girlfriend Saturday. You'll stay here and watch football with me. And then it's Christmas. If you really love me, you won't go to your families for Christmas. We'll just stay here by ourselves. And so initially I would think, well, don't I get to have a life of my own too? But none of my friends were good enough. There was something wrong with everybody. And so you start thinking, okay, in the name of peace and saving my marriage, and I guess this is about compromise, so, you know, if he doesn't want me to go shopping, I'll stay here. And so it's that gradual limiting. I don't want you to take the bus to see your cousin. I'll drive you. Well, then pretty soon he doesn't want me to ever get on the bus. He says, when we dance, look into my eyes or at me. Do not appear in another world. If I ask you what's wrong and your answer would break one of these rules, smile and say nothing. If I say, are you sure? You say, yes, dear. Don't call the police. Don't go for a walk without first asking me if you can. Don't scream or wake the neighbors. Don't open a window or door if I tell you not to. Those are the first steps of that controlling behavior. That then it doesn't become such a leap when the physical abuse starts, because they've been isolating you from your family and friends. And I look back and realize that's what was happening. Do not discuss your marital problems with anyone. Answer all questions that I ask you immediately. If you do not answer within 30 seconds, be prepared to pay for it. One day I saw my son take his giant teddy bear that he just loved and just shake it really hard and slap it, and then he told it, I told you never to say that. And then he started hugging it and saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And tears started coming down my face, and I didn't cry much then, and I thought, oh my God, this is what he's learning is acceptable behavior. That as long as you say you're sorry, you can do almost anything. And that was in the middle of the marriage counseling, but that was pretty much the last straw for me. Don't ever bite your lip. If I decide that we sleep together, you will humbly comply without a fight. You will always defer to my final judgment. You will not go anywhere with or without me if I tell you you cannot go. Do not ever physically resist me. Now, you think this is somebody close to the edge? This is our classic batterer.
I didn't know who to go to, who to turn to, who to speak to. And I went on the internet and I got a hotline number, and I got in touch with one woman who, she gave me some advice. And the one thing that she said to me that stuck with me is, you've been in situations so long, and it was 14 years. She said, you know, you've been there so long, my only fear for you is that you're going to stay there. And she, you know, talked to me, and she was just like, you know, you can't stay there, which I knew, but I didn't know what to do. And what helped me is the next day she called me back to ask me how I was doing and, you know, what I was trying to do to get out. And she just gave me like extra push and, you know, and to help me and just see that, okay, I can leave and I'll be okay.
I'm a construction inspector on ongoing road construction, and I basically watch over a group of guys and make sure that they do their job according to state standards and specifications.
Here, I'll help.
Well, before I met my abuser, I'd done this kind of work, but he made me quit because of jealousy, and he didn't have control of me. For me, it was really weird because I'd met this guy, and he had worked at a company for 21 years, so to me it was stable, you know, as far as working, and you know, he was clean cut, seemed like a real nice guy, had a great sense of humor, and we got along great. And so we started living together, and we was together not even 9 months. And that was the first time he'd hit me. And it was just like up out of the blue. I said something about one of his friends, and he just like popped me in the chest. And then he was, you know, I'm sorry. And I thought then, get away. But, you know, he was so apologetic, and the next day, you know, he gave me some flowers, and at the time I wasn't allowed to leave the house. He done all the grocery shopping. You know, if I needed milk, he would pick it up from work. You know, I did not leave that property. You know, it was like my little prison. And he would take the phone to work with him to where I couldn't make phone calls. I had communication with my mom, but not very much because he didn't like for me to talk to her unless he was around. And she would see me and she would ask how, you know, what, how'd you get that? And I'd lie and say, well, I fell down the stairs or I hit my head on the cabinet. I didn't have neighbors who heard, you know, the screams. The police, they finally got to the point where they'd say, you know, why come out? You'll just end up going back to them. And, you know, so, I mean, it got to the point where why call them? They're not going to come. One night I was walking down the road with the cordless phone begging him, you know, please come, please come. You know, he's going down to the barn to get the gun, you know, and they never did. So I hid underneath a bush and slept that night. A friend of mine came by, wanted to know if I wanted to go out for a couple of beers because he knew he was going to work the next day, and I said, sure, you know, I said, that sounds great. And so my oldest son, he said, Mom, he said, I'll watch, you know, my youngest. And I said, all right, you know, and I mean, I was really looking forward to this. And I was there for about an hour, and he called. And he said, what are you doing? I said, sitting here enjoying myself. He said, well, he said, you're dead, bitch. And I just froze because I knew he meant it. And at the time, I still had broken ribs from the episode like 2 nights before. So I sat there and pondered, you know, what do I do? What do I do? And I finally decided I'd just, you know, go home, get my boys to bed, and I was going to go out in the barn and shoot myself. Luckily, my oldest realized something was going on, and he called my mom. And my mom drove from Bloomington up to Franklin at breakneck speed to get there before I done something stupid. And she made it there. And she brought me down to Bloomington. She'd already figured it out. I didn't know what she knew, you know, but she did.
I had nowhere to go with my children. I had left my abuser, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, my family, they're 5,000 miles away, and I didn't want to burden my friends. And the few friends that I did have, they didn't want to be bothered I think it's because they were afraid my abuser might go after them, and I didn't want to burden them. So I was forced to pretty much try to find my own way. And what I did, I called up the welfare office, and they gave me a number to a shelter. And when I called it and spoke to a woman there, and she's, was saying, well, we have a bed available. And I'm like, well, what is it like? What's the room like, I said, I don't think I want to go there. And she explained to me that, no, it's not like anything you're thinking. You have your own room. And, you'll have a bit of privacy there. And it was an emergency shelter that I went to.
Otherwise, that's bright yellow.
But at least it looks yellow, so I don't have to change what I say on the phone.
We were very concerned when we chose a place for a shelter that it not look institutional, that it not be the kind of place that would be perhaps a little frightening for people to enter, that it looked like somebody's home. In fact, very, very often there are children who just refer, apparently for years after they leave, to the Yellow House. We've always been very, very concerned about safety. Certainly you can't go 20 feet in shelter without having an opportunity to sound an alarm of some kind if that's what you need to do. We recently put bulletproof glass in both of our locations, and that was because what our records were showing was that there was a lot more assaults with weapons.
You get the honor to do all the opposite.
And it has happened that women have flown down the streets in their nightgowns without shoes on, with a baby clutched in their arms, and come to the door, but that's not a very, very usual thing. The crisis line is the first contact.
Is he around right now? Then you better, because often, you're in a real danger when you're starting to leave. So if he's not around, just come to the shelter. How can you get here?
I found out about Middle Way,
Do you have your own car?
and I called. They had room. I went over. They done paperwork. Then I went in there, and it was just, I felt so safe. It was totally different. And I don't know, it was a big turnaround for me because I'd never felt safe or protected.
Oh, you're awake too. Are you guys ready for your snack? Yeah.
Only 2 out of every 7 women and 2 out of every 10 children who need shelter can find it in the United States.
Goldfish crackers?
Those who do find a place can usually stay only 30 days.
No?
But Middle Way House is different. Here a woman can stay until she finds suitable housing for herself and her children. Or she can move into Middle Way's transitional housing for up to 2 years while she gets counseling, a job, and a whole new life.
I like that.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Good. I made a bowl before I was paper mache.
What is paper mache, Shaquila?
Like, you put water in the bowl and then flour and then stuff like that, and then you mix it up with your hand. We made a bowl out of that.
Just try and keep it right over the top.
We have enrichment programs for the children who are in school to make sure that they get the kinds of things that kids get in other homes. Science enrichment, work on the environment, lots of arts and crafts.
There's a lot of other women there of different ages, some younger, some older. And it just kind of, it's going to sound stupid, it was just kind of neat to know that I wasn't alone, And it was neat to be able to talk with them and share stories, and, it was kind of like a new family.
Hi, guys. This is going to be our budget week, okay? Because next week we're going to do hamburger and meatloaf. And this is called Where Does the Money Go, okay? And you're going to do it every day. And I'll show you how to balance your checkbook. And I'm not getting nosy, I'm not going to say, well, what'd you spend that $15 for,
9 years ago, my then husband, ex-husband now, tried to kill me. And he had been beating on me and abusing me verbally and physically for 25 years.
You see what I'm trying to say to you? If you go to get clothes with a voucher take that voucher, write it down on here where it says closed.
One of the reasons why I didn't leave is because I didn't have a job. You know, doing newspapers isn't a job that would support the children and I. I wasn't good in math, and I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. So I thought I had to have this man who was kind of like the shining knight in armor, who doesn't really exist, but he could do it all.
Meals away from home, how many of you eat meals away from home? You can solve that real quick by the night before fixing you a sandwich, a fruit, and if you need water.
The last fight, the night before, and my oldest boy tried to get in it and throw a radio at him, and that's when I decided it was time. But that night, Don tried to kill me because he said, I'd been trying to kill you for 7 months. And he took a homemade blackjack, you know, taped it all up. He broke the bottom of my feet, the arches in my feet. I have bone spurs that I walk on still. He came up over my head, and I couldn't move. I thought, you know, if he ever did this, I could get away. And I had hidden the boys that night. I took them over to a neighbor's because I didn't want him hurting them. And that's when he told me he'd been trying to kill me, and I couldn't move.
Brown bagging it will help a lot. Okay?
Yeah, I bet.
Because that's how I got my car.
Really?
I finally made it out, so we came down here to Middleway that day.
And taking away from eating out helped me get my car.
And the cigarettes, that's gonna kill me.
See, I don't smoke anymore.
Did you use?
Both boys liked it here.
Yes.
They went to school. Thomas had his 8th birthday here. We got a cake for him, blue jeans and a shirt for him. That was the first birthday he had presents and a cake.
You're going to know where the money's going to go. And we're not going to scream and yell at you because it goes out the window, okay? The first couple of times.
I'm trying to help these ladies become self-sufficient so that they'll light their spark of hope, so they will get out and help the community and help themselves and let go of the chain that causes abuse, you know, to end the cycle.
You think you can do it?
Women have to make their own decisions. These are very, very hard decisions, and very often, in fact, they're dangerous decisions. And we don't always know what the best decision is for any particular woman. She knows that better than others. It's unfortunate that although they're the expert on their own lives, even they sometimes don't always know what might happen to them. But we have to respect their ideas about where they want to go and how they want to be and how they're going to be safest.
I lived at Middleway, and I have 3 children, and I'd been a stay-at-home mom for almost 16 years, and I went looking for a job. I got my kids into therapy because I knew from everything we'd gone through there was a lot of difficulties there, and I wanted them to be able to someday look back and not repeat that pattern. So anyway, I started scheduling them therapy and these kind of things, and I was going through a divorce. So as I go looking for a job, you know, I'm honest about I'm going to have to miss these times on these days and this kind of thing. And people were telling me that made me undependable and reliable. One day, I went through this like 4 times in the same day, and I went back to Middleway, and I made the comment that I'd heard there was a strip club in town. And I said, you know, I never thought I would think of such a thing, but I had to take care of my kids somehow.
The year after women leave a partner, they look at a 72% decline in their buying power. We're not just talking about food and, you know, about Little League uniforms or piano lessons. We're talking about basics like food and shelter. We have to be able to provide alternatives for those women. We started out thinking, well, what we have to do is we just have to train the women so that they can work somewhere. Well, that wasn't enough. That was nowhere near enough. You can increase somebody's capacity, but you can't automatically change the conditions of their lives. So women went to work. They had no trouble finding jobs, but retaining employment It was tremendously difficult. There were so many barriers to staying in a job, so few employers who could handle the difficulty of the lives the women brought with them. And so ultimately then we ended up starting our own business where we could roll with the vicissitudes of those lives.
And one of the ladies that works at Middle Way was, well, just hang on. Middle Way owns some companies, maybe there's something open, you know. And so she talked to Charlotte, and Charlotte talked to me, and there was an opening here, and so I came to work here. Two of us will go on the truck, and we go out to different businesses, and we get documents and papers and things that people want destroyed, and we shred them. And then we put it in the baler and make big old paper bales. And
when we get 44 bales, then we get the semi and load the semi.
You load the semi?
Well, I load the semi, but I'm going to teach you.
I know.
Like when I went into Middle Way, I had no self-esteem. I thought I was just down, scum, and but they, you know, helped me and brought me out of that, and it means a lot to me. It's independence. I now have my own place with my kids, and I work every day, and it's, yeah, it feels good to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and carry on and go on with your life.
I mean, 6 months later, people amaze me at, you know, there's this, and this we can help you with. And I'm like, I didn't know. If I'd have known what Middle Way could help me do and how they could help me in my life, I'd have left a long time ago.
I got out mainly for my babies, for my children.
Absolutely.
That's the main reason why I got out. You know, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them, nothing I wouldn't go through for them. I took a lot of stuff in that whole relationship for them because
Absolutely.
I thought I had to stay there and I had to keep the family together. But then when I look back on it, it wasn't a family.
It wasn't, but the time you were there, you spent all your time making sure that your children were safe, making sure
That's
you
what I
may
had
not
to
think
do.
you were doing it, but you were definitely keeping yourself safe, keeping your children safe, keeping them out of harm's way, sometimes at your own, probably at your own cost.
If there's a woman involved, many, many times there are children involved. And these children are witnessing this type of behavior, or are victims themselves of this violence in the household, and then they're taking it out onto the street. And many times if it's a male child, there's a real good chance that he is going to become a batterer himself, because that is how he has seen his father address other women.
So what's a movie bad guy doing at your school talking to you about violence? Maybe they think I know a little bit about violence because of all the bad guys I played. The truth is, sometimes people are misjudged by the way they
Victor
look.
Rivers is an actor who travels around the country talking to kids about domestic violence and what it does to families.
My father would not allow my mother to hug or kiss her sons because it would turn us into sissies. What I do remember is him beating my mother, not only in rage, but with cold, methodical planning. And I know some of you are probably sitting there thinking, hey, why didn't your mom get herself and her kids the heck out of there? I'll tell you why. Because my mother didn't speak English. And she came from a culture and a country where women stayed with their men no matter what. And you got to remember this was over 30 years ago where there was very little awareness about domestic violence or what it is. Now, I've had people ask me, of all the issues or charities that I could have lent my time or even my name to, why domestic violence? I'll tell them it's because of a boy I know. This boy walked into his city's police department and he took off all his clothes in front of a room full of police officers. As the boy stood there naked, the officers were horrified that this boy's body was covered in bruises, welts, and burns. The boy told the police, now, go to my house and arrest him and get him out of there for good. The police said that what they could do is to have the boy sign a formal complaint and that they would go and speak to his dad. The boy said, "You don't seem to understand. If I do that and you don't arrest him, he'll kill me." Police said there was nothing more that they would do, that it was in fact a private family matter. The year was 1967, and that boy was me.
My 18-year-old, he knows I'm doing this, and he want to know, are you going to be safe doing it? Because he always worries when I go to do something different. You know, he's kind of like my guardian. I keep telling him, you know, you need to start taking care of yourself, quit taking care of me, because he's always been my protector, you know. And I'm telling him, like, I'm okay, you know. And I have to really convince him that I am safe, I am all right. And it's really hard on him.
My son Donald was going to go kill his dad. And he, through therapy and through me talking with him every day, saying, you don't want to go to jail for that man. You don't want to die for that man. He's not worth it. You know, don't let him ruin your life, because he's ruined his. He's going to suffer. His own life is going to take care of him. So I had to set the example. I had to start letting go and healing so that my two kids would heal.
My experience at the police station was not the first or the only time that my family dealt with the authorities. We were left with the impression that the only way they would make an arrest was if my father killed one of us, or we killed him. The majority of boys between the ages of 12 and 18 that are incarcerated for murder are there because they killed their mother's abuser. Now, I know why my mom never left. Because she feared for our lives.
At that point, sometimes you don't even consider yourself. You don't even think of yourself, because it takes you a long time to think of yourself as a person again. You know, it does. But like, if it wasn't for my son, if it wasn't for him, I know I'd still be there. You know, if it wasn't for.
Lucky he's not gonna remember, because mine's are older.
Yeah.
And like my oldest, that's all she knew. It was there from the time she was there. And that's all she knew, and she took it in that it was normal. And now, you know, it's gonna take a lot of time and a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy to get it into her that it's not normal. It wasn't normal. That's not the way a man treats a woman treats a man, a woman treats a woman, a man treats a man. That it doesn't happen that way.
The women that worked with my children, I mean, they made me realize that even though they didn't witness the violence all the time, but even though they didn't witness it, they heard it, or they felt it from me. You know, because if I'm upset, well, you know, the kids are going to feel it. Even though, you know, they didn't see the violence, they know that Mommy's not right.
I was 15 years old. My older brother and I were now responsible for everything, all the housework, you know, getting my younger brothers and sisters ready for school, doing our own school, and we could never do anything right according to my father. At least I couldn't do anything right according to him. And we finally had a confrontation where I spoke up in a more direct fashion, and he came after me physically, and I decided I wasn't going to take it anymore, and I basically threw him down to the ground and jumped on him and started to beat him. And here was a man that had terrified his defenseless wife and small children all these years, and now he was cowering and crying beneath me in a fetal position. You know, and the only thing I wanted from my dad was for him to love me. But I knew that given that circumstance, that if I beat him, what were the dynamics of the house going to become at that point? And I was afraid he was going to come back with a gun. So when he left the house that night, I grabbed a little shopping bag, brown paper bag, and put my things in it, and I broke into all the piggy banks and I left. I ended up living on the streets for several days. Finally, a high school classmate of mine spotted me and said everyone was looking for me. Cops, the school, and my dad. And he took me home. to his house, and his father was a lawyer. He helped me get a restraining order against my father, and that freed me from his home. But now I had no place to live, so my high school took me in, and I lived with 7 families during high school, and they were my angels growing up. It turned my life around. I went from being a gang member to being president of the senior class, and I lettered in 4 sports. I was a captain of the football team, and then I went on to get a full scholarship to college as an athlete. And it just goes to show you that you know, at a time when most people would want to throw a young man or a young woman away and say, "Oh, this kid's hopeless. I mean, look at him. You know, I mean, look where he comes from." You know, these people had enough courage to step in and take a chance with me.
No, you can do the same.
And it changed my life.
And I'm open for any questions.
The night that I did leave, my husband was very, very upset. He was very angry. He had beaten me in front of my children. And I ran with my 2 babies. And I ran to a friend's house. And they called my boss. And then my boss called the police. And they went and locked up my husband. And from that point then, it was just very fast. I ended up in court the next day. We had to come back for a trial date. And I knew I had to get my kids out of the country because I live in another country. And I had to go and get a petition to remove my kids from the country, or else I could be like in trouble, kidnapping, I don't know. So that very same police officer that offered to help brought me into Boston court and helped me fill out the forms and sat with me. And that was just so helpful for me because I think I was just like crying in the court. And so I got the petition to leave, and I also filed for divorce too.
The legal system is uniquely unprepared to deal with complex social problems. Generally speaking, the legal system has thought of itself as being a decision maker. You bring a conflict to the court and they're going to decide, and they're the answer. It's very hierarchical. It's a lot about power and decision making. And when you get something that is very complicated, even a divorce or a regular family law case without any violence at all, it's really not as suited to the legal system.
In Dorchester, Massachusetts, Judge Hanlon's court is one of only 3 in the country devoted entirely to domestic violence.
It has been, in this society, perfectly legal, in a real sense, if not in a technical sense, to hurt your partner as much as you want, and there have been very few consequences that were greater than the benefit that the batterer got.
Frustrated by their own failures, legal professionals in the community of Dorchester did something simple and remarkably effective. They created a court and a prosecutorial system in which everyone works together on behalf of the victim. Judge Hanlon led the effort, following a model created by Harvard Law graduate and survivor Sarah Buell.
In many communities, the advocates might be meeting, but they can't get judges to show up. They can't get other key players. So in one meeting, it became clear that the police department had a tremendous backlog in serving warrants. So you had battered women, the very serious, high-risk cases where a warrant has been obtained because this batterer is so dangerous, we need to pick him up immediately. But then it gets sent to the warrant office at the Boston Police Department, and it may sit there for weeks. So the agreement was made that the police officer, when he gets a warrant, physically walks it to the warrant department, walks it through there, gets it loaded on the computer, and goes out and picks up that guy. This may not sound revolutionary, but to pick up a dangerous batterer within hours means that the victim now has faith in the system.
So it'll go in the system within like a half an hour? 5 minutes? Cool. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Domestic violence calls are the most dangerous calls for a police officer to respond to. Basically because it's generally an unknown situation. We don't always know if there's weapons involved, and we're going to somebody's house, so there's always a chance for a weapon to be involved. And then how bad is the whole scene going to be? We don't know what the scene is going to look like. If there's children on scene, other family members, you know, it's just a crazy scene. We have to try and assess the whole situation and determine what happened and, you know, who the aggressors are. And sometimes both people were injured, so you have to try and figure out who has injuries from being abused and who has injuries from somebody trying to defend themselves. This is a stalking case. This is an incident that has been ongoing. He's continuously harassing, calling the victim, threatening to kill her.
I'll go with you. I don't have it. I'll put it in there for you. I'll make sure it gets you there.
You're under arrest for stalking.
Stalking what? I didn't do nothing.
We'll explain it to you when you get back to the station. You need to come back to the station.
Oh, my God. Jesus Christ.
There is the clerk magistrate, Mr. Dwyer.
At the Dorchester Court, Lois Cantor trains lawyers to be legal advocates for domestic violence victims.
This is April.
Hi,
and this is Dan.
Nice to meet you.
And
Nice to meet you.
they're going to be starting
Very
work
nice
on
to
Monday.
meet you, too.
And she will be... Lawyers are being trained today to take control. They're being trained to exercise power. They're being trained to speak for people. And I spend the first 10 days of my classes with my students telling them never to give advice. And these are lawyers. Now, this is actually the cashier, but sometimes child support is ordered into the cashier's office. I want to teach them how an advocate can really work to support a victim and to empower a victim. The issue is that for reasons of safety, as well as for emotional recovery, a victim has to be the one to make decisions about when she's prepared to leave a situation, if she's prepared to leave a situation, when she's prepared to disclose the abuse to authorities, where that disclosure might prompt events over which she will have no control. These are the new students.
Welcome to Dorchester Court.
We're just visiting today. They're going to start on Monday.
Well, we're really very grateful. Civil advocates enable us to give that plaintiff somebody to talk to, most importantly, I think, to do safety planning, but also to sit down with her, most often it's a her, but maybe 20% of the plaintiffs are men, explain what's possible. A plaintiff may not know that she can ask for child support. She may not know that she can ask for money to have the locks repaired or money for her psychiatric bills. She may not know that she can have a stay-away order from the children's school or a stay-away order from an apartment, a house that the defendant owns. So the advocates can explain the relief that's available and have people think about what relief they need.
Were criminal charges prosecuted?
No, at the time, you know, everyone was pressuring me, you need to press charges, you need to do this. And my whole thing, you know, just to see him. I didn't want to see him after that, you know, whole restraining order court thing. And I said, well, if I go and press charges, I'm gonna have to see him. And just all that resentment, and I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him. So I said, I don't want to press charges now, but now I wish I had him. But I just, the fact of having to stand in the courtroom anywhere near him, I didn't want that.
I wanted my husband prosecuted. Unlike some of you guys here, I wanted him to pay for what he did to me in front of my children. So I didn't have a problem in the court, standing 3 feet away from him. And I wanted him to pay, and he did. And I would do it again, you know.
Ransom Services line is recorded. Do you have an emergency? Yes, please. I have a tenant second floors on my house. Is they fighting together? Are they a couple, boyfriend and girlfriend? Can you hear that? No, I can't. Bellevue, you said? Yes. Are there any weapons? No, here? Ma'am? Hello, ma'am? I got the second floor and the fighting fight to each other and open the door now. And one has a knife. One has a knife. Who has a knife? Someone has a knife. The girl. You said Dorchester, right?
Use your phone number
I can hear you.
It's only in the last 10 years that we have even paid lip service to the seriousness of this behavior. I was a prosecutor for 7 years in an office where the district attorney took violence against women and children very seriously. He was one of the leaders in creating one of the first shelters in Massachusetts, and yet there were very few criminal prosecutions, not because he wasn't willing to make them, but because of the willingness of witnesses to cooperate at that time, and also the evidence gathering techniques.
This is one of the many cases where the victim doesn't want to testify. The prosecutor makes the case without her, against a repeat offender.
And did you observe any injuries to her person?
There were scratches.
Did you ask Ms. Jones if she had been assaulted?
Well, I think district attorneys have become pretty sophisticated at trying to make those cases without victim cooperation. It's not always possible. Quite often you have something that happens between two people and there's not a way to make a criminal case.
When you first asked Ms. Jones what happened, she said there was a verbal argument. That was all she said.
Correct.
And then you said, well, he says you stabbed him. And that's when she said, well, yeah, he also was hitting me and I did it for self-defense.
Yes.
What was the first question that you asked her?
What happened?
And what happened after you asked her that?
She stated that she had been having a fight with her.
What's your best memory of the words that she used?
We were fighting together, and I ended up stabbing him.
Did she say anything else?
No, Your Honor.
I asked her if she could tell me to the best of her recollection what took place. She stated that Mr. broken into her back door apartment. When she went to close the door, he had put a scooter in the door jamb so she couldn't close it, at which time he bit her hand. She stated that he came into the house. She stated to stay back or I'll stab you. Mr. said, no you won't, I'm gonna kill you when Tony leaves.
If I had had like the strength that you had, or actually to stand there, as bad as you didn't want to stand there 3 feet away, instead of not wanting to be near him, if I could have done that and just tell the judge and anybody in the courtroom, just like, I don't know, all the stuff that had happened and all the stuff that he had done. Oh, God, I wish I could do that. I mean...
But it took a lot of strength for you to get up and walk out of where you did, to leave your home, to go into shelter.
I mean, everything I had to give up for one person who just for whatever reason, I don't understand, felt you're nothing.
I don't think I would have had the strength to stand in front of my now ex-husband if I didn't have that police officer. He kept his promise. He said he'd help me. He was in the court. I had an advocate from the shelter in the court. And just all the support I was getting at the battered women's shelter, it, made me realize that, I am a human being and I'm worthy. So I was going into gangbusters, and that really helped.
If she wasn't standing there and the lady wasn't on the other side, I couldn't have done it. You know what I mean? I mean, which one of us isn't still scared to this day?
Talk to the lawyer first, all right? Give Ms. Church a chance to talk to you first. I sit in the district court. I don't send people to jail for life. There's no death sentence here. Everyone that I see will get out. So I'm looking for a sentence that will keep them from coming back to court. You've listened to Ms. Church, you've listened to her advice, right? Ms. Church?
Yes.
Yes.
And you have that in mind, right, sir?
Yeah.
And you understand there's an open criminal case based on this incident, and I'm perfectly prepared to listen to what you have to say if you have in mind that there's a tape running as part of the court record, and that anything that you say would be available to the prosecutor in the prosecution of the main case. And you know that, right? Ms. Church told you that, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, this is just surrender. I've paid common purpose. I don't want to do the year. I've been trying everything in my power. You know, the money was the only issue that was hurting me.
It's not about,
Keep myself
it's
on
not
track.
about money. I'll be honest with you.
I
The,
miss-
the issues are the 2 new arrests and not reporting.
Yeah, the couple of visits I missed. I don't want to go do a year for that. I did 2 years. I've been on probation for 4. It's been hard. I do not want to go back to jail for a whole nother year. That's a lot of time. In jail, it's not the place to be.
The focus has been on victims. How do we keep her safe? What can we do? How can we empower her? How can we support her? All very important, legitimate questions. But there was a lot of concern, I think, about looking at offenders for fear that the examination would be, in some ways, an excuse. That if we learned, for example, that they came from violent homes in large groups, that would be seen as an excuse.
You know, I got a lot of medical problems. I just don't want to be there. That place is rough in there. It's rough in there. It's rough. It's just not the place to be.
Your Honor, I think it would be a waste of everybody's time and effort to just wash him away, throw him away, put him back in South Bay, put him back in that type of mindset. The people who are there are generally people that this court doesn't have a lot of hope for, and I think Mr. has tried to work with probation. And I would ask the court to reprobate him.
Yes.
I would just like to emphasize, this is the 3rd time while on probation that he's had a violation of probation. That Judge Moriarty gave him an opportunity, Judge Miller gave him an opportunity. He picks up a new offense with the same victim. He has 3 open cases where there are various charges, all naming Ms. Jones as the victim. You have Ms. Jones taking a knife to defend her position, an injury that Mr. did not need stitches in. To determine that he was in a defensive mode, I would gather that he wasn't in a defensive mode and that Ms. Jones was holding the knife up to protect herself and keep him at bay.
I think we're learning what kinds of consequences make sense, and we're learning what the sentencing structure ought to be. I'm going to sentence Mr. to a year in the House of Correction, concurrent on each of the 3 cases. He gets credit for the time that he was held between January 22nd and March 6th.
The happiest time that day was when I was able to read my victim statement out loud without my voice quivering, without crying. I got through it. I mean, just calm, cool, collected. And I let him know, finally, what it was he done to me. And once I got done reading that, and the judge done his sentencing and all this, and I realized, wow, I done that. I mean, I was so thrilled that day.
Four years ago this month, I left him. I got my restraining order and I moved back into my parents' house. And from there, only good things have happened. Even though I had to quit my job and I had to go on welfare, I lost my car, my credit got ruined, my apartment was gone. And now I started waitressing. I went back to waitressing, and through that was able to get a good job with an insurance company, and I have a new car, I have my own apartment, I have a new baby, I'm in a new relationship. And I testified against him in a couple different courts because he was on probation, so he had to have surrender hearings. Because I wanted him away. I wanted him away for as long as possible because I didn't want him around me. I didn't want him around my son. I wanted to be able to get my life together and not have him know anything. And just, now I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him drive, when I'm driving my brand new car, because I had nothing. And now, I have a Lincoln. You know?
And you'll have one too.
Probably nicer than the car you had with him, right? It is. And I got it.
It's good. It's good.
And you just got your own apartment.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, I did.
How was your first night? Remember we were talking about that?
Oh, the first night I didn't know what to do. And I mean, the rooms were empty, and I was just running in every room. And I didn't care that the rooms were empty. The only thing I cared about it was mine. It was mine. That's all that mattered to me.
If you or someone you know needs help, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233.
And cut my ties with him. And hopefully present an example to my own daughter. That she, she doesn't have to put up with this either. Right.
He had another gun. He had it right there in front of my son. Because since we don't have, neither one of us have custody, he went to pick him up one day and didn't bring him back. And when I went to go get him, the gun was right there on the table.
It just seems like I always ended up back in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
I might have been gone for maybe about a week or two.
Why should I go testify again? I said, he may kill me this time while he's waiting for y'all to take him back to court the end of July. I don't think so.
A third of the women in the U.S. will become victims of violence. Why then does one of these women feel so alone? Mary Kay Incorporated and the Mary Kay Ash Charitable Foundation are proud underwriters of this program.
This is PBS.